Palm Bay City Council ran 4 hours Thursday night, produced 5 contested votes, and buried the biggest infrastructure news of the meeting at the back of the agenda.
Cannabis ban on first reading, a 1,200-acre development cleared on a split vote, a church rezoning approved over the planning board's denial, and then, almost as an afterthought, FDOT proposing a $2 million interchange rebuild at Malabar and I-95.
From the Palm Bayer. Start with the cannabis ban. Ordinance 2026-13 passed first reading 4-1. Councilman Mike Hammer cast the only no.
Deputy Mayor Mike Jaffe sponsored it, and his framing was the key to the room. This is not a moral fight. It is a home rule fight.
Quote, "The state doesn't give us the option to control the free enterprise in Palm Bay by taking away our home rule."
That is the whole logic in one sentence. Under Section 381.986-11 Florida statutes, a city that does not ban dispensaries outright loses the power to cap how many can open or to zone where they go. The state preempts everything except a flat prohibition.
Jaffe said he counted more than 13 dispensaries already operating inside Palm Bay's limits. The ordinance freezes that count. Existing locations stay as legal non-conforming uses under Title 17, Chapter 17, Part 9 of the City Code. New ones cannot open.
Hammer's objection was free market. Quote, "You're not going to build 13 in Palm Bay if they're not needed. I think we should let the market control this."
Mayor Rob Medina cut to the trade-off. Quote, "It's all or nothing. We would have preferred to do it in the zoning class."
Translation, the state took the scalpel away. Council had a choice between a hammer and nothing. They chose the hammer. Second reading is May 21st.
Then Centerpointe. Ordinance 2025-44 rezoned 10 acres for Centerpointe Church from rural residential to single-family RS1. The vote was 4-1, with Hammer again the lone no.
This one had a long road. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended denial 4-1 last September, calling rural residential a rarity in Palm Bay and prioritizing green space. Council just overrode that.
It came back with a settlement agreement. The applicant downgraded the request from RS2 to the less dense RS1, and an emergency access requirement got written into the ordinance as a condition.
Councilman Kenny Johnson made the motion. He told council the negotiated settlement was, quote, "the best-case scenario compared to what the Live Local Act could have allowed on the same parcel."
The project is 33 single-family homes inside a 41-lot subdivision, north of Emerald Road, south of Valor Drive, west of Cavern Avenue.
Hammer's no was not about the church. He went out of his way to say so.
Quote, "We have some infrastructure and other deficiencies that I can't in good faith give a yes for."
That is a Hammer pattern worth flagging. Infrastructure first, applicant second. He said the same thing on Everlands 20 minutes later.
Everlands West. 2 ordinances, both 3-2, with different dissenting pairs. Ordinance 2026-10 was the future land use map amendment.
That one redesignates the property from a mix of low-density residential, high-density residential, commercial, and recreational and open space to a single neighborhood center designation.
Johnson and Hammer voted no. Langevin, Jaffe, and Medina voted yes. A motion to deny by Johnson failed 2-3 first. Then the approval motion succeeded.
City Attorney Patricia Smith would transmit that amendment to the Florida Department of Commerce for state review.
Ordinance 2026-11 is the preliminary development plan for the planned unit development. Same 3-2 split, same dissent pairing, but Mayor Medina put a rider on the approval. Quote, "the added potential of increasing discussions of 4-laning as they phase in."
Meaning St. John's Heritage Parkway Northwest. Hammer had pressed that on the record. Medina baked it into the motion.
Here's the scale. Approximately 2,360 residential units, 1,600 single-family, 760 multifamily, plus 145,000 square feet of non-residential space, northwest corner of St. John's Heritage Parkway, NW, and the Melbourne-Tillman Water Control District, Canal No. 1.
Staff's own memo says the project will require roughly 12 additional sworn police personnel and a quint apparatus at a proposed Fire Station 8 just to maintain current service levels.
And the road triggers are written in: proof of funding or proportionate share at the 1,000th building permit, construction underway or equivalent capacity at the 1,800th. That's the leverage point if the four-laning conversation stalls.
Neither ordinance is final entitlement. The FLUM amendment goes to state review. The PUD approval still needs a final development plan with phasing, transportation contributions, and a development agreement before any building permit issues.
So it's a green light, not a checkered flag. South Regional Water Reclamation Facility. First detailed public status update since the April 16 emergency procurement. Utilities Director Gabriel Bowden delivered it.
And there's a date on the record now that didn't exist 3 weeks ago, June 22nd.
That's the targeted day for first receipt of flows. Cathcart Construction mobilized April 20, 4 days after Council authorized the $2.4 million emergency contract.
The deficiency list grew from 86 plus at the April baseline to roughly 90 now. 46 are high-priority pre-startup, 11 are at or around startup, 32 are lower priority post-startup.
Council staff met with the project's surety on May 5th and walked away with an in-principle agreement to move forward. The surety has paid more than $2 million in payment bonds to subcontractors of the original terminated contractor, R.J. Sullivan, who was removed from the project February 5th.
Bowden's milestone schedule: pipe coatings, grate repairs, and manhole lining the week of May 11th. Wet checks of all systems except the Kubota membrane system targeted for June 1st. Kubota headworks rebuild complete the week of June 8th. Full plant startup attempted that same week. Flows received June 22nd.
Quote, from this Tuesday when we talked with the surety and got the green light to June 22nd will be about 48 days. We'll be working very hard to make that happen.
48 days is the running clock, and that's the public commitment now. Anything later than June 22nd is a slip target on the record with a name attached.
Remaining contract value, $832,088. Retainage, $828,523. About $195,000 in remaining subcontractor work. Cathcart site work costs still being calculated.
One thing Bowden didn't address: FDEP permit compliance. No mention, no update. That gap is worth tracking before the next status briefing in 2 weeks.
Lobbying contract. Tabled. The State Lobbying Services Award did not happen.
This is a procurement integrity story. Staff scored the bids. Southern Group of Florida came in first at 92.33 points. Gray Robinson second. Sunrise Consulting, the incumbent, came in fourth at 69.61.
Council's stated preference was Sunrise. City Attorney Patricia Smith stopped that train.
Her warning to council was direct. Quote, you all can't now decide there's criteria that they used in which they were evaluated, which was a published criteria. What you all are saying is, we like who we've got. I don't know that that's the only criteria.
Translation, you cannot publish the rules, score against them, and then ignore the score because you like the loser. That is bid protest territory.
Councilman Chandler Langevin moved the table to the second meeting in July. Unanimous. June has no scheduled council meeting.
One additional disclosure. Mayor Medina recused himself from the evaluation committee because a Gray Robinson attorney had donated to a charitable family Christmas event Medina ran in a ministerial capacity before he was elected.
2 procurements approved without discussion. Traffic Control Devices, LLC, got a $440,000 piggyback contract on a City of Orlando agreement for traffic signal span wire replacement at 5 intersections. Some of those wires are 17 to 33 years old.
That is wires older than some of the drivers passing under them. 5-0. Mansfield Oil added as a supplemental fuel supplier through a Sourcewell cooperative. 5-0 again. City Manager Matthew Morton said the city has consumed about 48% of its fuel budget through this portion of the fiscal year.
Then the Singular Tower lease. New co-location ground lease at 1050 Malabar Road with new Singular Wireless PCS, an AT&T subsidiary.
5-0.
Negotiated up. Base rent went from a starting offer of $12,000 per year with a 3% escalator to $24,000 per year with a 2% escalator. Over the 25-year max term, the lease generates $768,727.
Deputy City Manager Brian Robison said the renegotiation added more than $331,000 compared to the earlier proposal. That is staff work that paid for itself and then some.
Now the buried lead. Council reports ran past 10 p.m. The agenda was deep into administrative items. Deputy City Manager Jason DeLorenzo stepped up to talk about Malabar and I-95.
FDOT briefed city staff on Wednesday, May 6th, the day before the meeting. 3 concept improvements at the interchange and the San Felipe corridor.
A third left turn lane from Malabar onto I-95 northbound, a fourth westbound lane through the interchange, and a third southbound lane on San Felipe all the way to Community College Parkway.
Construction cost, $2 million to $2.5 million, not including design.
SDOT is asking for a letter of support. The Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization expects to handle the funding gap. Projected cost to Palm Bay is $0.
That is the headline buried under everything else. $2 million interchange rebuild at one of the worst choke points in South Brevard. And the city's check is the cost of the postage on the letter of support.
Morton credited council for taking a risk on the temporary chicane lane configuration earlier this year. Quote, "They don't always get those kinds of results that quickly," end quote.
Meaning the data the temporary configuration produced is what got FDOT's attention. The risk paid off. Council gave consensus to issue the letter.
Quick rundown on the rest of council reports. Johnson asked Morton to explore an RFP for a retail recruitment firm as a backup if the economic development director search comes up dry. 2 finalist interviews are scheduled this week.
Johnson also reported that the Brevard County School Board moved its school resource officer reimbursement offer from $52,000 to $77,000. He plans to advocate for a 75% reimbursement rate at the board's Tuesday meeting.
Deputy Mayor Jaffe reported a CFX, Central Florida Expressway Authority, conversation about a potential toll road from St. John's Heritage Parkway and Malabar connecting to the interchange southeast. CFX willing to fund a $1 million feasibility study. Council gave consensus for a letter of support.
That is a long arc infrastructure story. A $1 million feasibility study is the first dollar of a much bigger conversation.
Morton got council consensus on a letter inviting Ken Griffin, CEO of Citadel, to invest in Palm Bay. He also praised the joint response by Palm Bay PD, Fire Rescue, Brevard County Sheriff's Office, Division of Forestry, and Public Works to the latest fires at the compound.
City Attorney Patricia Smith announced an attorney-client session for May 12th at 5 p.m. on 4 active litigation matters: Dugan, Vaughn, Tillman, and Cazalis. All of these City of Palm Bay.
Read the full article at thepalmbear.com.